Have you ever stopped to think about what happens to a coin after it leaves your hands? Perhaps you see it as something ordinary, an object without a soul, without a history. But let me tell you a secret. I am a coin, and I have lived more lives than you can imagine. I was born centuries ago, and since then I have traveled the world. I have passed through powerful and fragile hands, clean and calloused. I have been the treasure of kings and hope for the hungry. Each groove in my body holds a fragment of memory, each mark a story. Today, I want to share my journey with you. I want you to see the world through my golden eyes, feel the weight of each pocket I've been in, and understand how, even being just a coin, I have touched so many lives. So, sit down, listen. This is my story, a story that might make you reflect on your own. I was forged in an era where every object carried a purpose. I was not just any coin. I was created to represent power, glory, and a golden age. The craftsman who molded me chose the purest gold alloy. His hands worked with precision, each detail of my design a tribute to the king who ruled. When I finished cooling, I was polished until I shone like the sun itself, with the king's profile engraved on my face and a coat of arms on the reverse, a symbol of eternal greatness. My first home was the royal palace's vault. It was a dark and cold space, but full of wealth. Every day I heard the guards commenting on wars, alliances, and court intrigues. Finally, the day came. I was taken from my golden bed and handed to the king himself. I observed him closely for the first time. His hands were firm, but his face bore the weight of difficult decisions. With me, he paid armies, bought the loyalty of allies, and financed adventures overseas. I remember one particular moment, a secret negotiation. We were in a room lit by candles, and the king used a chest full of coins like me to buy distant lands. But time is not kind to anyone, not even to kings. Internal intrigues and external battles shook his throne. The wealth that once flowed like a river began to dry up, until one night I was stealthily taken by different hands. It was a young servant, his eyes shining with a mix of fear and hope. He hid me under the floor of his humble cabin, away from the eyes of the nobility. I didn't know what the future held for me, but for the first time, I realized that my journey was just beginning. My golden shine revealed itself among the shadows. The boy, thin and hungry-eyed, found me under the floor. He held my cold and polished body with a mix of astonishment and happiness. For him, I was a miracle, something that could turn a night of hunger into bread on the table. My new journey was modest but full of meaning. I passed through the hands of a baker who exchanged an old loaf of bread for me. Then I went to the market of a merchant who, although he already had dozens of coins, kept me with zeal among the others. Each new hand that held me had a different expression, but the same desire: survival. Amidst the dust of the streets and the simplicity of homes, I realized something I hadn't understood in the palace. It wasn't my shine or my material that mattered. For those who held me, I represented hope. A father used me to buy medicine for his sick daughter. A traveler took me to pay for shelter on a cold night. In each exchange, I felt the weight of human needs, so simple yet so vital. There was a moment I will never forget. An old beggar held me in his trembling hands, and instead of spending me, decided to give me to a street child. He said, "You will need this more than I do." It was then that I realized that even with nothing, people could give everything. For years, I witnessed acts of generosity and desperation, of hard hearts and kind souls. Although my life was uncertain, something in me changed. I, who had once been part of grand treaties, was now a symbol of resilience in the hands of those forgotten by society. And this phase of my life, though difficult, was one of the richest in meaning. It was on a sunny morning. amidst the chaos of a flea market, that my new phase began. Among boxes of old items and forgotten trinkets, a collector spotted me. He had a trained eye, almost as if he could see through time. When his hands touched my worn surface, he smiled. "A coin from the 17th century. What a find," he said, as he carefully placed me in a velvet case. For the first time in years, I felt that my value had been rediscovered. My new home was different from all the others. There was no hunger, no rush, no constant touch of human hands. Now I was surrounded by other coins from different eras and places, each with its own story to tell. We remained still, protected in cases and display cabinets, while our owner proudly showed us to other enthusiasts. For decades, I was admired, studied, and even traded in auctions, where the value attributed to me was not just that of my gold, but of my history. And yet, something inside me missed the movement. I, who had once crossed oceans, sealed alliances, and fed families, was now still. There was a moment that stayed etched in my memory. A young collector held me with reverence and whispered to himself, "How many stories have you seen?" I wanted to answer, wanted to tell him everything I had lived through, but he could only imagine. Although I was safe and valued, something was missing. The human touch, the unpredictability of the real world. But I knew that even in this static phase, I was still part of something bigger. My story, now preserved, would inspire others to think about time, value, and the marks we leave in life. The years passed, and my shine began to fade. The collector who valued me so much aged, and his collection was forgotten in a dark corner of his house. I was there, among other coins, waiting for a new chapter in my journey. One day, the house was sold, and the new owners began to clean the attic. That's when a young woman found me. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity as she saw me. She picked me up carefully and cleaned me, revealing my former splendor. "What a beautiful and old coin," she exclaimed, deciding to keep me as a lucky charm. I was placed in a small wooden box, along with other precious objects to her. Although I was once again in a safe place, I missed the movement, the stories, and the lives I touched. The young woman, named Clara, was a history student. She loved researching the past and discovering the secrets hidden in ancient objects. One day, she decided to take me to the university, where her history professor could help uncover more about my origin. In the history laboratory, I was analyzed with modern equipment. Clara and her professor discovered that I was a rare coin from the 17th century, minted during the reign of a famous king. They were amazed by my history and decided to write an article about me. The news spread, and soon I became an exhibit piece in a local museum. People of all ages came to see me, hear my story, and imagine the lives I had touched. Although I was once again in a display case, I felt part of something bigger, inspiring curiosity and admiration in people. My life in the museum was peaceful, but I knew my journey was not yet over. One day, a traveling exhibition was organized, and I was chosen to be part of it. I was carefully packed and sent to different cities and countries where new people could learn about my story. In each new city, I saw curious faces and heard whispers of admiration. Children pointed at me, amazed by the idea of a coin so old and full of stories. Adults read about my adventures and reflected on the value of simple things in their own lives. My journey took me to places I never imagined. From big metropolises to small villages, I touched the lives of many people, inspiring them to think about the past and value the small things that carry big stories. And so I continue my journey around the world, always ready to share my memories and touch new lives. Because in the end, I am not just a coin, I am a testament to time, a keeper of stories, and a reminder that even the simplest objects can have a profound impact. Every groove in my body is a memory of the hands that held me, the hopes I carried, and the dreams I helped realize. I learned that every person has a unique and valuable story. that generosity can be found in the most unexpected places, that even difficult moments can teach us important lessons. And that, in the end, what truly matters are the connections we make and the lives we touch. Remember, each one of us has the power to make a difference. Value the small things and the people around you, for they are what make life truly rich. And so, my journey continues. From hand to hand, from life to life, always ready to share my stories and learn new lessons. Because in the end, I am not just a coin. I am a symbol of hope, resilience, and human connection. Now I want to hear from you. What is your story? How can you make a difference in someone's life today? Remember, every small gesture counts, and together we can create a world richer in meaning and compassion. You leave your comment and inspire others with your experiences. Together we can continue this chain of stories and learning, making the world a better place, one coin at a time.